The Queens of Spice podcast is created for adult audiences only. It contains cursing, vulgar content, dark humor, descriptions of sexual acts and desires, and is not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Some episodes may also contain subjects that are triggering for listeners. Please take care of yourself.
I'm just like, here on a vacay, let's just get railed by aliens. Why not? Welcome to the Queens of Spice podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Reggie and I'm here with my BFFFFFFF, Ash. Hey, buddy.
Hi.
How's it going?
Living the dream.
So, I don't know if you know, but this week we are talking about a lovely little ditty called I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com by Kimberley Lemming.
I feel like our podcast has become an episode or an exercise in whiplash.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's kind of like we're getting the two sides of the personality here of like, here is some like weird stuff that has spicy stuff in it. And then here is a lovely, wholesome, wonderful story about a single mom meeting like the love of her life and struggling to think about that. And then we have a couple characters who just crash land on a planet basically and fall in love through a weird serum. Which I'm going to tell you about.
Through a weird serum.
Yes, the takeaway, of course, is that a weird serum mimics the generational mating rituals of another species. Go science.
Go science.
So, Kimberley Lemming, if you'll recall, wrote another little ditty that is called "The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon," which her first series was called the Mead Mishap series. The second book of that one was "The Time I Got Drunk and Needed a Love Potion and a Werewolf," and the third one was "That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human." I think there's like a couple novellas as well that I don't think I read in that series, but basically it's just following like three friends/siblings and in their like kind of mishaps meeting these people. And so this is more of that, but in a very different way.
More or less the same, but not.
I mean, it's a similar structure to like where we're setting up some characters to have a series, and they're pretty ridiculous. Let's just get into it. Dorothy Valentine is close to getting her PhD in wildlife biology when she's attacked by a lion. On the bright side, she's saved. On the not so bright side, it's because they're abducted by aliens. In her scramble to escape, Dory and the lion commandeer an escape pod and crash land on an alien planet that has dinosaurs? Dory and her new lion bestie, Toto, are saved in the nick of time by a mysterious... Dory and her new lion bestie, Toto, are saved in a nick of time by a mysterious and sexy alien, Saul. On their new adventure, they team up with an equally hot, equally dangerous Locke, who may or may not be a war criminal. Whether it be trauma, fate, or intrigue, Dory can't resist the attraction she's developing for the two. As this ragtag group of misfits explore the new planet, Dory learns about how and why they've all ended up together, battles more prehistoric creatures than she could have imagined, and she imagined zero, and questioned if she even wants to go back to Earth in this hilarious, steamy alien romance, adventure, comedy, romp. So welcome to I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com. Any questions yet, Ashton?
I'm a little concerned about the lion's involvement, to be completely honest.
All right. So Toto's actually pretty rad. So let's...
As long as this isn't like a fucking Wicked Witch of the West situation, or not a Wicked situation, is it? Where they like have an orgy with an animal?
No. I will say straight up that Toto has nothing to do with any of this. He is a support character only. He has his own romance that's coming up, so we'll talk about that when we get there.
Okay, well I can get behind that.
Yeah. Toto definitely gets his rocks off at the end of this. So, I mean, off screen. We're not like, anyway, you'll understand briefly. So the intro to the book is Dory. Her name is.
In my head, it's just like, in the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight.
Like that, but I'm going to spoil it slightly in that it's a lion and a saber-toothed tiger. So
look, I'm not mad about it.
I can't listen. I'm so excited to tell you about this. Okay.
So tell me.
So we start the book with Dory observing some meerkats in the Kalahari, and she's like I said, a wildlife biology PhD student. So she's doing this internship to like monitor the lives of these meerkats basically and watch the like dynamics and stuff. It's very funny, honestly. They have a bunch of weird names. It's kind of a theme that starts off early in the book that we're going to carry through later. So
I feel like that's just kind of her bag, though.
it truly is. And this is, I will say straight up, if you've read Kimberley Lemming before, you're reading a Kimberley Lemming book right now. Like, it's very like I could pick her writing and her style out a mile away. Like, it's very strong, and the tone of everything is very consistent with the previous books. So she's interrupted in the middle of watching these meerkats do meerkat shit by her mom calling her. And her mom has been like trying to marry her off basically. And her mom's like a very Southern belle. Like, Dory had to do like pageants and shit growing up, and it was very much not her style. Like, she's a wildlife biologist. She's hanging out in the desert right now watching meerkats. Like, she's not a stand on stage and marry a rich man kind of person. And so we're establishing that very early on as well with this convo with her mom that she like cut short. So she like gets out of this phone call with her mom, and then she immediately turns back to these meerkats to see what the hell they're doing. And as soon as she does that, she's attacked by a lion. And she just like kind of turns around. She's like, then has a thought like, oh fuck, like this is not good. And then all of a sudden she blacks out. And when she wakes up, she is laying on a table with tubes and weird stuff attached to her. They're these bird dudes that are like a foot to 2 feet tall. And they're like chirping and saying things in a language she doesn't understand, and kind of hovering around the room and doing tests or something, whatever the heck they're doing, science. And she kind of like looks up and looks around the room, and it's lined with tanks of, I think she calls them like bedazzled egg tanks or something, because they're really weird looking. There's a bunch of other human women floating around in them. And there's a couple she takes note of, so we might actually see them later in the series. And so of course she like freaks out, as one does, because she's like, what the fuck is going on? This is insane. I was just in the middle of the desert and now I'm in a spaceship, question mark. So she obviously, in typical Dory fashion, which we learn, fights her way out, gets her shit somewhat together, and just runs. As she's running, she fights her way into one of the rooms that has the lion in it that she saw previously, and she like pushes buttons at random and whatever, and ends up freeing the lion. And then she's like, fuck, I just freed a lion, and then obviously takes off out of that room. So once she gets into like one of the other rooms or something, anyway, it's a lot of chaos early on. She ends up runs her head into something and gets this like weird blue goo on her head or some weird shit, which of course she laments about, because like, you don't fuck up the curls. And so as soon as that blue stuff is on her, she's like, you know, having a moment. But then all of a sudden she can understand what the bird dudes are chirping about, and it starts making like actual sense. So it's like this weird translation thing that activates from this goo. So she fights her way out. She frees a lion, whatever, blue gooed. She gets blue gooed. It happens to the best of us.
Here's some gooage.
There is about 5% of gooage that no one's happy about.
Some people like a little goo.
Here's the thing, is that this goo is translator goo. So I feel like I would make an exception for translator goo, especially if I was in space.
Oh, let's be real. You'd make an exception for all kinds of different goo if you needed to. Do not play coy in this.
And sometimes even if I don't need to, I'm going to do it anyway. So
fair enough.
She fights her way into this like escape pod situation she can't really understand, but like, I mean, imagine if you were in sci-fi and you were like, hey, this is another room with a door that locks and it like has buttons that go places. So she hits the button and the door starts closing. And of course, buttons and doors don't understand urgency, because the lion is running towards her, and the lion like jumps into the pod with her. Then it like, door closes, disconnects, away they go. They get shot off into space.
I'm glad the lion's okay.
Well, Dory's freaking out because she's like, there's a fucking lion in here, and that lion just killed me. Like, what is going on here? And it's back for more. Like, here's this vendetta. But as they're like plummeting through space, they end up crash landing on, it's like an ocean, or it's a big body of water. They crash land on this planet. And when I say crash land, they come to a graceful stop because it's a programmed like escape pod. So it's not like, this is not a huge traumatic thing. So the lion like tackles her and licks her face, because it's like, I guess, grateful that they've survived. And Dory has this moment where she's like, this lion's licking my face and its jaw is still covered in my blood. what is going on here? Like, it was very weird.
Oh, yeah, an existential.
Well, she's like, I was dead. Like, that lion took a chunk out of my neck. Like, why am I still here? They must have fixed me or brought me back or something. Like, so we have this like little inkling of like, what the fuck is going, like, there's some shit going on here. So once the lion licks her face, suddenly they can communicate together using like common language.
What?
Go on. Do you have a question?
I'm gonna lick your face, and now all of a sudden we can hear each other.
Yeah, so whatever blue goo infected her or like got on her has now made its way to the lion.
Lion licked the goo off. You didn't state that.
Here's the thing. The lion licked her face. And that's the takeaway here. The blue goo is no longer in play, but it is in a certain way. So I don't want to spoil it, but like, so he licks her face and now they can speak. He like starts talking to her.
Yo, what up? My name's Frank.
Well, and she's like, what do I, she just calls him lion. He's like, yo, that's not my name. And she's like, well, what's your name? And of course he's like, well, you can't pronounce it in your like primitive language. So what do you want to call me? And so she ends up at Toto because this is kind of, you know, her companion.
Of course she does.
And of course there is a comment that like, I don't think we're on Earth anymore, Toto.
Oh my God.
So they're just trying to sort out like how to get out of this pod. And all of a sudden it gets like attacked. Like there's this crazy finned creature going through the water that like tries to bite down and like eat this capsule. So they end up, she like pushes some weird buttons, ends up getting the door open, and they end up swimming to like shore. And as they're swimming to shore, this like a Dory has this moment where she looks around. She's like, that's a fucking massosaur or whatever the fuck it's called. It's one of those big fin dinos that lives in the water.
A mesosaur?
Yeah. And so she's like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
going
whatever.
on? Dinosaurs. Listen, there's going to be a bunch of dinosaur names here I'm not going to be able to pronounce.
And I'm gonna hear you for it.
Right. So they make it to shore. And as they're making it to shore, like Toto gets like an injury on his leg or something. But they're saved because there's a bunch of fireballs shooting from the shore at this creature. And the creature kind of fucks off. And so when they get to shore...
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Sounds
What
like
you need to understand is this is a level... There's a level of acceptance here that you need to have as a reader. But what I will say, Ashton, because this will be very validating if you ever go back and read this book, that level of acceptance is not reflected in the main character. So I'm very casually saying all these things, but the way Kimberly wrote it is that Dory is like losing her fucking shit through all of this. Like there is no chill. And it reminded me a lot of you actually, which is very funny.
What? I don't know how to take that count.
Her internal dialogue is just like, what the fuck is going on here? None of this shit makes sense. And I'm going to be upset about it.
I don't get upset. What are you talking about?
So they make it to land. They're approached by this very tall, he's like about 6.5 feet tallish, including his horns, because he's got these, like an antelope, the big like spiky horns that go back. And he's gray, like he's a dark shade of gray. He's got a tail and like hooves. So they describe him as like a very tall satyr.
Oh, okay.
An alien satyr, basically.
Alien satyr.
Who shoots fireballs. Keep that in mind.
Out of what?
His hands.
Okay.
And tail,
It's
maybe?
important. Did you say and his tail?
No, he definitely shoots them out of his hands. But anyway, they don't get into that really. But they definitely at one point somebody fires them from their hands. So that's a thing. So obviously, similar to Toto, they can't communicate. And so he's saying things to her and she's saying things to him. And they're like, well, we can't make sense of this. And they haven't really pieced together why her and Toto can communicate yet because they're going through a very traumatic event right now.
Oddly enough.
So, of course, Toto has this moment where he and Dory are communicating and like the alien guy ends up like kind of waving them along and they leave together. And Toto's like, where are we going? No, we're that thing that you humans have in their homes, that the animals that follow them around. What are they called? Pets? We're your pets now. You need to feed us. And so Toto hilariously doesn't have like, he's a lion, right? So he has no frame of reference for stuff.
Yeah.
So when Dory starts freaking out about some stuff, he's like, you're speaking human. I don't know what this means. So she starts freaking out about the massosaur, for example. And he's like, I don't know what that means. What is that? I've never seen that before. Like he's a calming measure to her, like freaking the fuck out almost.
Yeah.
And so their dynamic is like just so good right off the bat. They're following this dude. They end up walking like almost 10 miles, I think. Dory is just freaking out because as they're walking, she's seeing like little dinosaurs. Like there's just, I don't even know what they're called. They're a bunch of dinosaurs of different varieties, like big ones and small ones and whatever. And there's like a pterodactyl at one point. And at the same time, the plants and shit around her are like modern plants. what did there? She saw something eating a dandelion and she freaked out because she's like, these things existed millions of years apart from each other. Why are you eating a dandelion? And so she's having a really hard time parsing like what she knows to be fact and then what is going on in front of her eyeballs. And I should say too, she does have her phone with her and it does have a charge left. She obviously can't connect to the internet, but she's like she's documenting some of this stuff. And so she's trying to parse that like, this is kind of Earth, but it's an Earth that does not make any sense. And so she's like kind of getting a bit of a migraine from it. And at one point she comes across a ground sloth, which are like from the most recent ice age or something. And she starts yelling at it.
Like kid?
No, like it's a really big sloth, basically. Like it's not something we have in modern times. Like it would be I guess it'd be kind of like Sid because he's from Ice Age.
Yeah.
So you know what? I retract my statement, Ashton. You were right.
I'm right sometimes.
So she starts yelling at it and she's like, you don't belong here. And Toto pipes up and he's like, yeah, I don't think he knows that, Dory. And so they keep on trucking. And then they come across a car.
Like vroom vroom?
Like a car, yeah, that goes vroom vroom. Dory goes over the car, and as she's going over the car, the alien dude is like almost like not quite pulling her away, but like we have to go sort of situation, like very panicking, like we need to leave. And she's like, hold on, like my curiosity is getting the better of me. I need to find out what the fuck is up with this car. So there's just a car, it's like a red Volkswagen or some shit, sitting in the middle of a clearing, minding its own business.
As one does.
As a car does. She goes up to the car and opens the door, and inside the car is absolutely nothing. It's just like a shell of a car. There's nothing in it. There's no seats. There's no steering wheel. There's nothing. This is the breaking point for Dory, where she just lays down on the ground and is like giving up and just refuses to go anywhere else. So her and Toto just like lay on the ground, just ready to perish. And the gray alien dude just like leaves. And so she's like kind of like in and out of sleepy consciousness, just like accepting her demise, basically. Then all of a sudden, Toto gets like hogtied and lifted off the ground. And she is close to follow, like hogtied and lifted off the ground as well. And the gray dude had come back with rope and like hogties them both and drags them off to a cave in the woods, basically.
Oh my God.
And so they get into the cave when they are about 100 feet from this cave opening. It just starts downpouring rain, like monsoon season level downpouring rain.
Okay.
And like the wind picks up and there's this like really horrible storm. And of course, Dory's like, oh, I see. You were trying to prompt us to move before this happened, because it's just like torrential downpour, and thunder and lightning. And like the wind is like breaking trees and shit. Like it's a proper hurricane style wind. They get into the shelter of the cave and he lights a little fire because there's like wood and stuff in here. And in gratitude, once Dory is free, because he like cuts their bonds or whatever, she kisses him in gratitude. And then suddenly...
oh, now they can understand each other.
One of the first things that happens once they understand each other is they're like they're stripping down sort of because like they're soaked. And so they're trying to dry their clothes off. Dory takes her boots off and she has her feet or whatever. And this guy freaks the fuck out at her feet. I can't even explain the level of freaked outness. Like when I see a spider freaked out, he starts going on about hoof rot, about like, oh my God, what happened to your hooves? They're all like, this is a disease. This looks terrible. But like, don't worry. Like, we'll take you back to, I'll take you back to my clan and we can like I know it's a communicable disease, but like we can put you in a hut outside of town until you get better. And we have really good healers, and just like going on about like a game plan of how to fix this. And she's like, bro, I'm an alien. These are my feet. This is what they look like. This is not a hoof rot. And he kind of like calms down. He's like, okay, cool. Right, alien. You don't even have a tail. Like, what is going on here?
You don't even have a tail.
Where's even your tail? We get the story about who this guy is. His name's Saul. Race is called the Sincado, and he himself is like a monster hunter from what they call the Night Ridge clan. So they're a clan that lives like kind of far away. They're about 6 miles from his place right now. So in total, they were almost 20 miles away from his clan because he was out hunting a monster, as we learn. And so we get this little backstory about how his race came to this planet, because this is not their native planet. Their planet was destroyed after it was struck by like a freighter ship about 10 years ago. And so when the freighter ship hit their planet, it had a bunch of like fuel or something in it that dispersed and like destroy the ecosystem in their planet. And so they had to, like, the people that stayed basically would have died. And so what happened was the strongest of their species was plucked up and left on this planet by those same aliens. And so she's like, that's crazy. Those bird aliens are up to some shit. So that's all we have right now.
They're up to some shit.
And it's funny because Toto at this point, when they're having this conversation, refers to the birds, the like bird alien dudes, as sour birds because he bit a few of them and they tasted sour.
Oh.
So they end up going to sleep. When they wake up, Toto is like threatening to eat her because he's so hungry. And Saul is nowhere to be found. He like went off to do something.
Bitch, I'ma eat you.
Yeah, so Toto, it's very funny because Toto and Dory, like, they have this little moment where Toto is teaching Dory how to hunt like a lion. Because they go outside and they find this clearing where there's like a fluffy stegosaurus is how they describe it. And it's just little. Like, it's like the size of a large dog, basically. And it's just like, you know, doing stego shit and eating grass or whatever the hell it's doing. Toto is like, he's like, okay, you go up to this side. I'm going to have this side. And you scare it. And it's going to push it towards me. And so, like, they're hunting together. And Dory has this moment of like, I'm dead ass hunting with a lion right now. And he's teaching me how to hunt like a lion. This is insane because she's a fucking nerd. She scares the stego. And the stego runs towards Toto. And Toto captures it. But as she's like chasing this stego, she gets her foot caught in a snare. And so she gets like flung up into a tree and hung upside down. And so her and Toto are trying to figure out how to get her down from this because his claws and his teeth are not really doing a good number on this snare to bring it down. And so all of a sudden, this, like, as she describes, a super ridiculously hot Senkato emerges from the bushes and cuts her down. But as he's about to cut her down, Saul bursts through the growth and starts like shooting fireballs at this dude.
Jesus Christ.
And then they start having this big fight. And so, like, at this point, you're like, what the fuck's going on? Like, this is crazy. Because you have these two aliens fighting each other that, like, let's make some assumptions and be like, okay, well, they don't know each other, obviously. There's some shit going down here. There's some bad blood, whatever it is. And then they're also getting this thing of, like, is Soul being overprotective? And what's going on here? Like, there's some little inkling of, like, why is he so, strongly protecting Dory? It's interesting. And so...
It's interesting.
It's something.
The thing that's happening.
And so Dory, who's very practical, ends up getting out of this snare using Toto's help and then breaks up the fight by kissing the stranger, like this new guy.
Oh, yeah. That's
so that they can talk. So they can talk, right? Because she figured it out at this point. She's like, oh, when I kiss someone or put my mouth on someone, I'm making them like understand the translation. And so she's pieced this one together because she's a smarty pants. And so she just straight up kisses the guy and be like, okay, now we're going to discuss what's going on right now. Like, what is the problem here? She's very pragmatic like that. Like, she wants to break up and like solve problems instead of just continuing to fight. So we find out this guy is named Locke Batar. He goes by Locke. And he's from a clan called the Rom-Com clan. And they're a bunch of herders. And so they're from like a different part of the continent than the Night Ridge dudes are from. And so like they have their own, we learn that they have their own like clan areas. And then they also have neutral territory. And so right now they're on the cusp of neutral territory. So technically, like, Locke and Saul are allowed to be in this space together. So it's not like no one's breaking any rules right now. And so Dory's like, there, see? Done. Problem solved. Also, Locke at this point, too, when they actually like have the conversation, he refers to her as Stardust because he was like, were you the one that fell from the sky? I've been tracking you since I watched you fall from the sky. So he calls her Stardust. It's really cute. Soul, of course, is trying to rush her off to leave. Like, okay, thanks for helping us get that snare sorted out. We're leaving now. Bye. And as they're about to leave, Saul and Locke get shot with darts. Like these like little tiny darts. And of course they start freaking out and they're like protecting Dory and trying to keep her away from like, what the fuck is going on right now? A little like flying saucer looking thing materializes out of the air. And one of the little sour bird guys pops his head out and is trying to shoot them with these little darts. And so they end up having this conversation and you learn that he says, I'm just an intern because he's an intern working for this company. And you find out that his race is called the Biwabon. It's like Biwban. They're working for the Biodiversity Conservation Initiative on this planet. He reveals, because this is where he starts freaking out, he reveals that both of these species were supposed to be Class C species. And they're actually Class A species, which is like, you know, the sentience level of what they understand. And that they shouldn't be able to communicate with them at all. Like there should be no, like even with the, as he calls it, the translator symbiote that she absorbed, they shouldn't be able to communicate even with that. And so basically what he's telling them is that the company he works for has botched a relocation program with the Sincado. And the botched program was that when they took the strongest people from their planet, everyone they ended up taking based on their algorithm was male. And so they dropped them here on this planet with no females whatsoever. And so they just have a bunch of like Sincado males who are like, you know, fighting all the time and trying to like get territory and stuff. And I should clarify to this too. The way we're describing the Sincado right now is very, like, they seem like a primitive species. Like, they're hunter-gatherers, they're herders, like that kind of stuff. But like, their original planet was very much like Earth with its level of technology and its level of like established hierarchy and laws and stuff like this. So like, they were a very, very Earth adjacent kind of place, but also they still had war and they still had strife and they still had like the same things we have. They just like were on a different scale. Where we find out from Intern that the human females are close to a biological match to in order to breed with these Sincados. And so what the program is doing is they're taking females from Earth who have reached their natural death and are relocating them, like fixing them and relocating them to this planet.
Fixing them.
Well, they healed them. Like Dory was almost
job.
dead. Yeah. So Dory was almost dead, right? So like she got attacked by a lion. She would have been deceased if she would have stayed on Earth. They zapped her up like within a moment of her death, healed her, and then you find out this is a little spoiler. Later you find out they did some biological changes to her? Question mark. They don't say what those are. But the quote is to make them more compatible with the Sincado is all you get.
Is that all we ever know?
That's all we ever know, actually. Yeah, we don't. We get like some inklings here and there, but it's never like revealed what they are. We also get at this point because Dory's trying to like, as her researchy kind of stuff she's doing, she's trying to suss out like what the hell is going on and how we got here and like what is the issues here. And so she brings up to Intern about like, why is this? Like, you have dinosaurs and then you have like natural flora from like current Earth, and you have dinosaurs for some reason. Where did you, like, you guys, what do they call it when they make a planet habitable? Terraforming, thank you. You get from Intern that they terraform this planet to be habitable for both Earth and Sincado. And so Dory's just like, how is this habitable for humans? You put dinosaurs in here. And he's like, yeah, but like our research team like found these dinosaurs that you guys cohabited with before, so we didn't think they were dangerous. And so you get this this interesting little, the research team having done a very shitty job. And the reason they did such a shitty job with the research is because they only had 3 days because of budgeting.
Jesus Christ.
And so they only budgeted 3 days of research on Earth. So what ended up happening was that a bunch of the researchers went to museums and they found information about what was in the museums, and a lot of things in museums were dinosaurs.
Fair.
And Dory points out, because they listed the museums, and she's like, oh, I know where those museums are, I've been there, whatever. They ended up with this weird smattering of human history throughout the years, basically. And so as we go forward exploring this place they're in, like in this planet, you get like, you have these very specific dinosaurs from very specific ages that are very museum worthy, and then you have the flora that's from like current Earth because they just like went around zapping up whatever they could, and then you also have things like cars, but they have no understanding of what cars do. They're just like, hey, look, a thing, and they just put it in there. So it's, if you imagine a fish tank and you're like, I know a fish would like a castle, and you just put it like a model of a castle in there.
Hilarious.
That's what's going on here. Yeah, right. And so they're treating them like a classy species because they're like, oh, look, they have cute little vehicle things, like let's just plop those in there. And then, oh, look, a billboard, like that's a neat thing, and they just plop a billboard in there. And so every so often you'll come across something on this planet that is like distinctly shallowly Earth in such a rudimentary way, with no understanding of what it does or the purpose of it or how it's supposed to be. And so you get like, and Dory freaks out, of course. She's like, you guys did such a fucking shit job. Like, where are the Targets? Like, where are the grocery stores? Like, what are you doing here? Like, you learned nothing of a value whatsoever. And so Intern, while she's having this tirade, is like making notes. Because he's like, we'll find a target. Do you need a target? What kind of targeting are you supposed to be doing at this target? Like, it's very funny because it's all taken so literal. And then you also get, okay, so this is an entire program relocating the Sincado because of the freighter that hit their planet. So because these people are trying to relocate the Sankado and like make their community thrive again, there's some level of responsibility here. And so Dory, through asking a bunch of questions, gets that the son of the person who is responsible for the Sankado's planet being destroyed is now the head of the department trying to fix this problem.
Okay.
And so we're getting this like this weirdo nepotism bullshit of like embezzling funds almost, because we're like, okay, you have this insurance whatever thing that is paying out to relocate these people because of this incident that happened on their planet that should never have happened because somebody didn't follow the rules.
Yeah.
And then you have this company who's headed by the people responsible for that problem doing the relocation projects as cheaply as they can. And so there's this bizarre, it's so fucking meta, Ashton. It's just ridiculous. Dory's having the moment of like, my life has been uprooted and I can no longer get my PhD because someone couldn't be bothered with like proper funding of a research program like outside of planet Earth. Like, this is too ironic.
Wow.
It's very funny. And so at the end of this entire conversation, Intern, who is kind of, I can't be mad at him, but at the same time, I'm going to be mad at him. He just like blows a dart at Dory and hits her with the same thing that he hit the other two with.
Jesus Christ.
And so, of course, we have this like, the fuck is this shit? He's like, oh, it's just this serum that'll encourage mating. And so as the serum starts working,
fuck or die.
Well, Dory has this moment of like, I need, like, give me some space. Like, I'm freaking out. Give me some space by myself. I've just learned about, like, I'm basically dead and can never go back to Earth. And I should say, too, that her and Toto at one point, they have the conversation. It's around this time where they kind of hash out what to do. And Toto's like, yeah, I stuck with you because you humans are like, you always know how to get out of these situations. And, like, you'll figure it out. And she's sitting there being like, okay, well, we just got to, like... She makes this goal to go punch the CEO of this company, the head of this research facility. So goal number 1 is to punch the guy in charge because this is some fucking bullshit. Yeah. Goal number 2 is to steal a spaceship and try to get back to Earth. And then number 3 is to figure out if they have gas stations in space in order to make that trip. And so those are her 3 goals right now. And Toto's like, all right, let's go. I'm here to support you through all your goals. Let's do this together. And so they have a very wholesome relationship like that. Because he's also like, sure, let's get back to Earth. Why not? This is like not fun.
This is not fun.
This is not ideal. So she has her little existential. She's curled up by a tree and she's like, okay, let's go. And then she has a moment of like, I need to get up and rail these dudes. Like the serum is just like taking the fuck over. And she's like, I'm freaking out right now. Like, I can't do this. Like, I can't be stuck on this planet.
Fuck or die.
Well, here's the thing, Ash. Fuck or die, but responsibly. She remembers that, and she runs her hand up her arm, and she's like, oh my God, these little sour bird dudes didn't remove my birth control implant. And she's like, I can't get pregnant. This is amazing news. So she, of course, gets up and goes and rails the other guys, because she's like, well, now I'm just on a little vacay. I might as well have fun.
I'm on a little vacay.
I'm just like, here on a vacay, let's just get railed by aliens. Why not?
And that's the moment you felt seen.
That is the moment I felt seen. She has this moment where she's like, please don't make this a full wide choose and just keep it to these 2 guys because I don't have the stamina for any more.
Oh my God.
And then Intern also informs her that like this is a breeding program and like that's what this whole thing is about. Hence why she's like so relieved when she's like, oh, I have a birth control thing. That's fine. And she also at one point, I can't remember if this is, no, she talks about later. I'll bring this up again. But she talks about like, since you don't know anything about humans, like in the back of her head, I can just make up whatever and you have no clue. And so she ends up mentioning at one point that like, yeah, I mean, you have a breeding program for humans, but you don't even have all the things we need for a breeding program. And he's like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, there's no chocolate here anywhere. And so he's like, I'll make note about this chocolate situation. And like, she's just kind of gaming the system at this point. It's very funny. So she's having this breakdown. She comes to this like kind of existential moment where she's lamenting about like, I'm never going to have my PhD. I'm never going to be able to tell my mom to stuff it. I'm never going to be able to like live my life that I've been building for so long. And then she like thinks about the Sankado people and she's just like, you know, compared to the destruction of an entire planet, my life seems kind of meaningless because these people have like lost their entire homes. Like Earth is still there. It's fine. Everyone's going to continue. But she herself died. And so she's like mourning the life that she had at this point. Mm-hmm. And as she's mourning this, she is like, she's got her head in her hand, she's covered up or whatever, like just crying. And this like pink T-Rex like comes in and nuzzles her head, like sniffs her. And as he sniffs her, she sneezes. The dinosaur sneezes.
Oh, I'm glad you specified.
So this dinosaur sneezes, and after it sneezes, it gets upset and just leaves. So that's it. That's her intro, and it's like a chonky T-Rex. So it's bright pink.
Barney.
It's very chonky. No, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's definitely not Barney. There's Barney vibes.
Barney's a
not
chonky
even.
purple T-Rex.
Yeah, but this is like a proper T-Rex. And so one thing, and of course what's the first fucking thought Dory has, because this is who she is as a person, is she looks at the T-Rex and it's bright pink, and she's like, pink? How did we get that so wrong? And then like, that's your thought. Instead of, oh my God, I might die, my life's in danger. She's like, why is this T-Rex pink? We always thought they were like lizards. Why is it bright pink? So anyway, right. So she has her plan sorted out. She's like gonna go punch a bird and then leave. She still has her birth control implant. So step one is that she's going to go rail what they're referring to as her mates. Because this thing, like when Saul and Locke were shot with this dart, they like had physiological changes to them. Like they just like grew bigger and their horns grew longer, and like stuff kind of altered in them in order to be like, they're now at their breeding stage of existence. Because typically, and I think Intern explains this at one point, is that they manage to, like, there's a chemical reaction that happens in the Zencatta's brain when they find their mates, like their true mates. And so these bird dudes ended up being able to reproduce that in a serum, because it's just a chemical imbalance. And so they put the serum into the dudes go through the thing, and then they mate with the girl. And that's how it goes. And so she's like, well, fuck it. We're going to go rail some mates. And of course, and this is like, God, I think we're 80 pages into the book at this point, like of a 300-page book. So she just like thoroughly gets DP'd by these guys. And Ashton, you'll be so nice to know that, like, you'll be so pleased to know that they both have knots.
Excellent. Love that.
And so she gets not even DP'd, she gets double knotted. And it's interesting. I had this thought afterwards, because it's not brought up in the book. The second time I read it through, I was like, wait a second. Saul ends up with this like lubricant stuff that it's almost like a muscle relaxant kind of thing, but it makes her like, because he's doing her in the butt, he like, it relaxes her a bit, but it's also a lubricant. And I was like, what a weird thing to carry around with you. And then I was thinking about it, and I'm like, this is an entire planet full of males. And it's never brought up in this book ever, not one time, about like any male romances per se. Like, we'll get into a little bit of it, but like, there's no other relationships with dudes brought up.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why are you carrying that around, Saul? Like, what are you up to, buddy? And so like, there's this little inkling in the back of my head now as I'm reading this book, and I'm like, I need to know more about any potential relationships that were going on in the last 10 years, because no one was getting any, because there's no females here whatsoever. So I'm very fascinated about that. Anyway, so they, you know, have a bunch of sexy times. And of course, Intern, who's still hanging out, is not only recording this, but he's taking very thorough notes about how this is working and what's going on. And at one point he asks Saul to like bend backwards when they're knotted together, because they're knotted together for like 15 minutes or something. And he's like, yeah, I just want to see like how you ended up getting a knot in her anus. We didn't even really anticipate that happening. So I'm very fascinated about like, just like, he's just going on very clinical about it. And Dory's like mortified, of course. And then of course, because out of nowheres, because we are on a dangerous planet with dinosaurs, they get attacked by these little raptors that are like the size of dogs. And as they're making a run for it, they're still knotted together. And so you have like Dory sandwiched between these two as they're trying to run away and like climb a tree or whatever. So they end up escaping. They end up like firing like fireballs at this stuff. Toto is the one that saves the day, because as soon as Toto got wind of like, oh, they're going to start railing, he's like, I'm the fuck out of here. Peace out, guys. Like, we'll see you later. And so Toto hears like the ruckus and the screaming and comes back and like saves them or whatever. And Toto's like, he's such a good like guard dog, for lack of a better word. Like,
Such a good boy.
Well, he's so fucking vicious and just like loves attacking stuff and killing it. And it's just like, it's so satisfying for him as a lion. And I'm like, this is like really well written character, as which is a weird thing to say, but I feel like Kimberley Lemming like nailed what a lion would be. Like, he's very prideful, and Dory always praises him whenever he does something well, and he just preens like it's amazing. Dory announces that she's gonna go punch the CEO. They end up like getting unknotted. Everyone's safe and fine. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go punch the CEO. I'll see you guys later. And Locke informs her about, they call it a Zali, which is their sacred mating bond. He's like, you're my Zali. I can't like just let you go off by yourself. Like I have to follow you. Like that's what's going to happen here. Like this is sacred mating bond for life sort of situation. And she, of course, who's human's like, yeah, okay, whatever, bro. Like in the back of her mind, she's like, I'm going to be leaving this planet. So you do with that information what you want. And so they all end up going together to go punch the CEO. So Locke, so he calls Blossom. Blossom is a duck-billed dinosaur. And hilariously, later on in the, like all you get right now is duck-billed dinosaur. And I'm like, okay, that could be a lot of things. And later on, Intern actually calls it a Parasaurolophus. And I'm like, that's hilarious. And I'm like, is that a nod to the Chuck Tango book? Because that's fucking amazing if it is. So like, what a specific dinosaur to pick. So they get on the Parasaurolophus, and then at this point, Dory's having a moment where she sees Locke interacting with Blossom. And he has like a little sugar treat for her and like is petting her. And then he's also got his like herd of fluffy Stegosaurus behind him, because the one that they ended up killing by mistake, which was one of his herd, had wandered off. And that's why he was there. But so he has this herd of fluffy Stegosaurus following him around too. And Dory is just like having this moment of like, oh no, he's empathetic and considerate. And he's got this fucking smirk on his face all the time. And he's amazing with animals. And she's like stab in the heart, gutted, like instant crush on this guy. So they carry on, and Blossom calls for her boyfriend, who is named Beast. And Saul gets to ride Beast. And Beast will basically follow Blossom anywhere, but he will do so in his own time. And so Saul is like, you know, Locke kind of has a slight against Saul here, where he's like, you get to ride the Beast, and good luck. Just let him do his thing. And Saul, like, for the life of him...
Good luck.
Well, and Saul, like, for the life of him, cannot just, like, let it go and let Beast do his thing. He's got to try to rein him in. And it's just not the way to do it. So it's very... You get this, like, Saul's kind of hard-headedness is coming through here, and it's very funny. So we've got Locke and Dory on Blossom. We've got Saul on Beast, and we've got a herd of fluffy Stegosaurus, which they call the Yix. And Yix is a callback to their own planet, which was a different type of creature they had there. And so they just named it the same thing here. They end up, like, Intern is with them now too. And Intern is following them around because this is fascinating scientific data for him. And they end up going, Intern points them towards what he calls a cul-de-sac. And Dory's like, of houses? And Intern's like, yes, we have these, like, enrichment centers for humans called houses. And they're on a cul-de-sac. And it's literally just a cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere. Just a bunch of houses. There's like 6 houses or something. And on their way there, they're seeing all these billboards, the aforementioned, and the billboards make like 0 sense. Like it's just a bunch of random shit. And it's very funny because Dory's like, can you guys even read any of these billboards? And the Intern's like, well, of course not. This is a primitive language. And of course, like Saul and Locke can't read them either because it's like written in, you know, human language. And so she starts reading them out to them. And it's just like, it's the most ridiculous shit. I can't even, anyway. I don't want to spoil it because you should definitely read it for yourself at some point. And then, of course, there's like some sexy times because, of course, there is. Dory ends up getting like really hot and bothered because she's like, you know, sitting with Locke on this creature and whatever. You know how things be. And so they end up having some sexy times.
On the creature?
No, they end up stopping and getting off. And Saul also like it joins in on this too. And this is where you get a bit of, I think that might be the sexy times I'm going to read. I think it is. You get a little bit of the dynamic in here where Locke is like, he's like the super friendly, chill, funny, lighthearted guy. But then when you get him in this setting where the power dynamic, he's like in fucking charge. And it's very fascinating to see the switch just like that. Saul, of course, like he's not Mr. In Charge, he's Mr. Take Charge. And so he ends up following everything that Locke tells him to do. And so you get this like interesting inkling about this point about their personalities. So then we get to, oh my God, that's right. I forgot about this. So every so often the book kind of pauses and Dory yells at something because what I mentioned before about the, you know, wildlife biology thing is that stuff doesn't make sense on this planet. And so she stops at one point and starts yelling at a frog. And the frog is like massive. Like it's like 20 times the size of a normal frog. And it tries to eat Dory, but like it can't because she's too heavy as a human being to like absorb. And so they have this weirdo moment with this fucking frog where she's like yelling at it and trying to decipher how the hell this happened and figuring out like what they're doing for food. And just like, it's very fascinating to kind of stop and take a break after all the shenanigans and be like, I'm just going to go yell at a frog right now. And this is going to be my outlet for today. And so they have a moment with this frog. So when we get to the houses at the cul-de-sac, intern lets a little nugget slip. And so when Dory goes up into one of the bedrooms, there's only one bed. And in all of the houses, there's only one bed. Like, Dory's like, this is so weird. Why would you only put one bedroom in a house? It's so bizarre. And so intern lets it slip that the research team came up with a tried and true, like they found this tried and true method of getting humans to mate from a book called Romanceopedia.
Oh my fuck.
A guide to writing the ultimate romance. And so the biggest trope that came up in this to help humans procreate was only one bed. And so every house that they've built in this entire world has only one bed. Now you also get the inkling of like, okay, these dudes are following a romance book. So their like playbook on how to make humans mate is all from romance tropes. And I kind of love that. Dory freaks out about this, of course, and she's like, okay, fine. You guys can stay in this house. I'm going to go stay in another house by myself without any of you because I need time for myself. I need away from you.
Goodbye.
And she's schooling intern about this too. She's like, yeah, part of getting to know someone is spending time apart from them too. So like she kind of frames it in this way to be like, I'm going to go stay by myself and none of you are going to be involved. So she goes off, and as she's going off, Saul kind of comes with her just to like get her settled in or whatever.
I'm going off by myself. But you can come with me.
Briefly. And so, under the guise that Saul has this private conversation with her about who Locke really is, especially after like the last kind of sexual encounter they had, he's like, okay, I officially know who this guy is. And so Saul divulges that Locke is actually General Gozi Lockbitar of the Singing Arrows. Locke was a notorious war general back on their home planet. You get this information about this ongoing war that's been going on for generations on their planet. And Locke overhears this conversation and he fills them in on what that means. And so you get this story about like, there's this ongoing war that's over a bunch of generations on their home planet. Osid, who was the other war general they were fighting, he burned down Locke's city. And then Locke turned around and flooded Osid's city. And so it was just like a lot of back and forth of like terrible things happening. Just as the tide was turning in this war and Locke was starting to win, the planet ended. And then they all get transported to this new planet. And now Locke has decided to be a Yix herder. And well, like he's like, I'm fucking done with this. Like you finally get somewhere in this war and you get a leg up and you're fighting all these people for what? The planet just got destroyed. There's no point in fighting this war anymore. Like, what is the point of it? I'm just going to go herd Yix. And so Locke is having a bit of an existential because he's like, now I'm just herding Yix on a quest with 3 aliens and a lawyer to go punch a bird in the face. And also this is where you learn that Saul used to be a lawyer on his home planet. And now he's a monster hunter.
Oh my fuck.
I know, it's great. So they have a little, anyway, because Locke just turns to him. He's like, what did you used to do on our planet? He's like, I was a lawyer. And he's like, ooh, that's almost as bad. Dory like dismisses them all. She goes and has her shower because there's hot running water in this house. Like, it's a normal house. It has appliances. It has electricity. It has all the things. It doesn't have coffee, which is another thing Dory's like, again, for mating with humans, you have to have coffee. If you don't have coffee, no one's going to mate. That's just how it's going to be. And so she's like feeding this stuff to intern. And intern's taking like very furious notes about it. Like, okay, we have to get coffee. Coffee's got to be a thing. Like, this is integral to the breeding process. So she comes out of her shower and she comes face to face with a saber-toothed tiger. And she opens the window and screams, obviously, and everyone comes running. The first person to make it there is Toto, of course. And Toto immediately lays eyes on this creature and is smitten. And he immediately goes off about like, this is going to be my queen.
This is going to be my queen.
Yeah, she's like, this is a stunning like creature. We're going to like have such a strong pride together. And my daughters are going to go off and make some of the strongest prides in the entire planet. And just like, it's insta love for Toto. It's amazing. And so he kind of like chases her off and they go off into the woods and who knows, they come back later.
And who knows?
So that's what, and
a thing happens.
After that, we're all kind of like, whew, okay, let's chill out. Dory looks outside and for some reason, one of the houses is on fire. She notices that another house has had the roof collapsed in. The house that she was just in has like now been torn up by a saber-toothed tiger. There was something else that happened with one of the other houses. I think like a brontosaurus ran through it or something.
Okay.
Like basically 5 of the 6 houses have been compromised, and there's only one house left.
Only one house.
And this is because intern is adamant that they share a bed together. He's like, no, this is the research. This is what it says. This has to happen. And so they end up with only one house with only one bed. So this is where we get the introduction of the Tamagotchi.
Excuse me?
Yep. You heard me. You absolutely heard me right. At one point, there's a weird, like something occurs and Saul says something adorable or sweet. And there's a little beeping off in the distance. And they're like, what the hell is that? And intern's like just hanging out on the windowsill. And he's like, oh, that's the affection meter. And he pulls out a little Tamagotchi and he pushes the middle button and it shows a meter. On one side, it's a little like dancing pixelated Locke. And the other side, it's a little dancing pixelated Saul. And beside them, they each have ratings that go from 1 to 10. Right now, Saul's is at a 3 and Locke's is at a 2. And because of that, they start having a fight because they're fucking men, and it's very funny. And so Dory ends up, in order to break up this fight, Dory focuses so fucking hard and she ends up changing the meter by pure spite.
Jesus.
And so she puts both of them back down to like 1 on the affection trail. And she's like, there, now we're all even. Just like, it's fucking brilliant. So then they all, go to bed cranky. When they wake up, Saul has tied Locke to the bed, basically.
Jesus.
No, hold on. This is going somewhere. He ties Locke to the bed and he ends up like doing some hanky-panky with Dory by himself. And you find out like right before he's just edging her, and right before she comes, he's like, put my affection meter back up. And she's like, what the fuck are you on about? And he's like, I have to beat that guy. You need to put my affection meter back up. I saw you do it with like spite yesterday. You can put it up the same way. And she's like, get fucked. And then, of course, Locke wakes up and breaks out of his bonds, obviously, because he's super hella strong, shoves Saul out of the way, and starts, like, going down on her, obviously. And there's just, like, he has such a dominant personality thing, too, when it comes to Saul. It's very funny. And it's, now that you know, they're like, oh, you're a fucking war general. You kind of understand. And so, sexy times ensues. And then breakfast, Locke ends up making her breakfast. And it's like poached eggs or some stuff. And they're having this discussion over breakfast about the weirdness of the planet. And Dory's explaining to them that like, yeah, none of this makes any sense because like the flora and the fauna don't mix. And she just goes off on this hyper fixation basically about like why this stuff doesn't make any sense. And at the end of this conversation, it ends with like, oh, right, does this planet even have a name? Like at what point did anyone name this planet? And then Locke fills her in that like every single general that has tried to name the planet after themselves, or every so-called king since they've arrived, as soon as they name the planet after themselves, they've been killed somehow. And so it's kind of cursed. So no one has really taken ownership of naming the planet because no one agrees and something terrible ends up happening. And so he's like, however, now that like, if you want to name the planet, I don't think anyone would argue or try to kill a woman on this planet. That would never happen. Like females are fucking sacred because there's none of them. And so the fact that there's a female here in their presence, they're like, you can say and do whatever you want. No one's going to hurt you. And she's like, all right, I now declare this planet Waffles.
Jesus.
And so the planet is now known as Waffles. And then, of course, Toto breaks back in and starts gushing about his new queen and how he's going to woo her and how they're going to have these like the strongest babies on planet Earth and whatever. The strongest babies on planet Waffles, and just like waxing poetic about everything. He like worships her and all this stuff. And Dory has this moment of like, why is a lion more romantic than all of my last exes?
Aww.
What a crazy, it's kind of adorable. At the same time, Toto also comes in like soaked in mud, like just covered head to toe because he's been chasing her down or whatever. And so they're like, okay, Toto, you need a bath. Like you can't be running around covered in mud because he's just like coated, right? And so of course this is a thing ensues. Dory gets her hands on some like pet shampoo basically and tries to clean a lion in the tub, which as you can imagine is a thing. This is ridiculous. I
This is
screenshot
ridiculous.
this is where the ridiculous happens. I screenshot this piece of the book and sent it to half the people I know because it's one of the most absurd things I've ever read in a book. She's bathing Toto. An intern rushes in and is like tapping on the window, whatever. She gets Toto somewhat clean. He gets out, whatever. She lets intern in and he's like freaking out. And she's like, why are you freaking out? And he's like, well, I was trying to I needed to go find the ingredients in order to make your chocolate. And I found a match for one of the ingredients. And she's like, well, what the hell was it? And he's like, well, it's the milk of a T-Rex. It contains this blah, 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 blah stuff. And and at the same time, in the distance, you can see a T-Rex running towards the house, the pink T-Rex from previous.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
And so she turns dead ass and looks him in the face and screams at him, you tried to milk a T-Rex. And he looks back at her, stone-faced, and says, for science.
Oh my God.
And so, of course, this fight starts outside. There's this fucking T-Rex. And this is we find out the T-Rex that Saul has been trying to find and this is why he was out here in the jungle. Is because this is the T-Rex, the big chonky T-Rex that ate like part of their herd or something or some of their animals. And so he was like hunting it down to kill it. So he ends up in this fight. And Locke, of course, is like, we gotta go. And Dory's like, I'm not leaving Saul. And Saul ends up getting trapped underneath some rubble or something. And she goes to try to save him. Locke, of course, is like, not shoves her, but like gets her out of the way and saves Saul. And then everyone starts running. And as they're running, they're getting chased by a T-Rex, of course.
Of course.
They're on this it's a high speed chase with a T-Rex is what's going on right now.
Oh, for fuck.
But then it starts to rain. And then Saul like ends up standing his ground with his T-Rex so they can get away. And of course, Dory's freaking out about this. They end up in this cave. Blossom has taken some injuries in this kind of running away thing. Like they've been bitten a couple times. And so now they're stuck in this cave. Blossom is injured. Saul is somewhere with Beast. They don't know if he's alive or dead. And so you get this kind of like Dory's obviously freaking out. She's like, we have to go save Saul now. And Locke, of course, is like, listen, it's pouring rain out. You can't go out in there. Like it would do more harm than good. We'll have to wait until the rain stops and then we can go. And then you also get this thing where Locke is really not interested in saving Saul because he's still got the girl and he doesn't have any allegiance to Saul, really. Like there's no emotional connection there per se. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, but Saul would want you to be safe. Like as a Staccato male, you're my bond. My job is to keep you safe. It's not to go save other people. And so you also get this like story with Locke about, as I mentioned earlier, about like why he's a goat herder now, basically, or a yix herder. About like the whole when they landed here, he like ended up like there's this big fight, and there was he tells her about like what they call the rumbling. The first time it happened in their where they crash landed, basically, they set up the society, and then the rumbling occurred, and the rumbling was like a bunch of dinosaurs basically running through their encampment and like killed a bunch of people and destroyed everything. And then in that kind of chaos, Locke ended up removing his armor, like his general armor, and leaving it in, I think it's called the Fuchsia Grove, and basically like walked away. This is where you get well, we've won a war, or we can win a war. There's a power vacuum on this planet. I could easily take control of it right now in the chaos. But what's the point? Like on this brand new planet, you'll be the warrior, like the king of what? Nothing. And so like he just wanted a new start and to like live his life. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know that Dory's going to like take off and go help Saul, obviously. So they go to sleep. She gets up early and she ends up like leaving because she gets this like horrible inkling that that Locke would never go find Saul, basically, to help her. Like his goal is to take her to go punch the bird and then live happily ever after. She leaves and she goes back to the cul-de-sac and she sees Intern on the house. On one of the mailboxes of the house, because they have mailboxes apparently. She finds Intern and she's like, oh my god, Intern, where's Saul? And he's like, yeah, I'm so glad that you're safe and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden the world goes black and she gets knocked out. And so she wakes up in a wooden cage and Toto is in the cage beside her. And Toto's having a conversation with somebody about, I can't remember what it's about. Something about biting. But like, yeah, sometimes you're just gonna bite someone. And she's like, the other person's like, what the fuck are you on about? Sometimes you don't bite people. Like, that's a crazy thing to do. The introduction here, Dory comes to her senses and she's awake and stuff. And the other lady who's in the other cage, she's like a punk rock girl. She's got like boots on and like spikes and chains and shit. Dory describes her as a woman with a cat eye so immaculate that I have a deep sense that that I could trust her with my life. And her name is Blair. So Dory explains all of the things to Blair, like the breeding program, being located from Earth, whatever. Blair, of course, freaks the fuck out. And when a guard comes to like find out what's going on, she boot fucks him in the head and knocks him out.
Jesus.
Blair's like, I would die. When she's like, I would trust this woman with my life, I agree, 100%. I would trust Blair with my life. You know, there's this big ruckus. Blair's freaking out. The head honcho ends up coming in, and he drags Soul with him. And Soul has been like beat to shit. He's trying to like get information out of Dory, and like, yeah, obviously they've confirmed the mating bond. He brings in what they call a druid, and they're just like a magic user kind of thing. The druid proves that she has 2 mating bonds. This dude wants to know who the other one is. Basically, through like using Soul as bait here, they make Dory admit that Locke is her other mate. So this guy ends up telling her that he is Osid, who is the war general that everyone previously thought was dead, and especially Locke thought was dead. He drags Intern in, and Intern shoots Blair and Osid with the dart thing and makes them a bond, basically. And of course, Blair freaks out about this. Osid is like a super massive fucking asshole, as you can imagine. He launches a fireball at Blair, and in the meantime, Blair has like kicked open her wooden cell, grabs her jacket, which is hanging on the wall, and in her jacket is a gun because she's American. And he launches a fireball at her, and it misses her, and she shoots him. And then of course we have this little freak out, which is fascinating to me, this freak out. Okay, so Intern freaks out because he can't figure out why humans can hurt their mates, because now Osid and Blair are mated. And he's like, how can humans hurt their mates? Like physically, like the Senkato cannot physically harm their mates. Like it's impossible for them to do. Of course, Osid has the quip of like, I can't, but 1,000 of my men can hurt you. But at the same time, it's like, this is the existential Interns happening. Be like, how can humans do that? And then this is where Dory explains it, like, humans don't have mates, you fucker. We can do whatever we want. And Blair's just straight up like, have you ever heard of domestic violence, you little cunt? Like, it's great. And so Osid ends up stealing the gun, and he ends up shooting the druid, because the druid was the one responsible for like finding out if they had any weapons. And the druid has this arrow on the side of its neck, and obviously is part of Locke's crew of the singing arrows, because Locke has the same tattoo on his neck. Well, the druid was in charge of checking for any weapons they had on them, and obviously conveniently left Blair with a weapon. So this was like kind of a weak assassination attempt against Osid, is what he's like, you know, saying. They get Blair back in a cage or whatever. Osid has dinner with Dory. He tells her the story of the planet, whatever, they recap that. And then he tells her this story about the world devouring god thing they have on their planet. He's like, as he's regaling this story, he's like, oh yeah, try this fruit or whatever. And she ends up picking the fruit up. It's from their native planet. And she ends up cutting herself on it. So what he does is he takes her blood, like covers her hand or whatever with a rag, takes her blood and hands it off to someone else. That's all you get from that information right now. You're like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to do. So then they have this, like, he's like, obviously you're not going to eat, you're upset, whatever. So let's, you know, there's a healing salve there, like put that on your hand so it heals. And then let's come for a walk with me. So I go through a walk through the fortress. Dory sees the dinosaurs trying to break down one of the walls they've built. And then they get this story about how last year when they were building this complex, it took all the men they had and everyone they had to drive off these dinosaurs who were trying to break it down. And this is when they refer to as the rumbling. Like every year they have this big attack on their complex, and they need to use every man in order to rescue, or in order to save their complex and their people. This is where you get the information about Locke's singing arrows being needed here in order to protect people. Otherwise, he would just kill them all, because they're not super loyal to him. And they're just like holding out, like it's almost like a religious order, the way they worship Locke. And so Osid's like super sour about it, because he's like, you know, of course I'm envious of blind devotions. Like Locke's warriors will follow him to the end of the world, basically. He brings her to this like pond out back where they're torturing this guy. They're like, he's in a cage that's hung over the water, and they keep like dropping him into the water. This is kind of it's obvious, like this is one of Locke's like first in command. And so he's trying to like prove something to them.
And he declares to all of them, because the singing arrows are all present, he declares to them what he's going to do with Locke. What he's doing is he's sending Locke a letter to don his armor and to fight Osid, or his mate, aka Dory, will die of wisp fruit poisoning in 3 days. So when he made her grab that fruit, it poisoned her. And this is his like leverage in order to get Locke to come out and fight him.
Oh.
And so because he needs Locke to actually fall in battle so that his singing arrows will then follow Osid. And he admits to Dory, and now keep in mind, the only people that can understand Dory right now are Blair, Toto, Intern, and Osid. Nobody else here at all, and Saul, of course, nobody else here at all can understand what she's saying. Mm-hmm. So he, just like as an aside, tells her that the armor that Locke is going to put back on, which has been sitting in the grove, is laced with poison. Once he puts it on, he's going to be very easy to fight. And so basically, this is like Osid being a fucking coward, setting this up for a sure win. Dory freaks out, of course, and tries to tell everyone, but they don't understand her. She gets so frustrated by this that, like, she's like, I need to do something. And they keep, like, dunking this guy in the water. And so she, like, freaks out, like, tries to shove the guy off the thing who's being, like, tried to shove there's, like, a person controlling the lever. And so she shoves that guy out of the way and tries to, like, lift the guy back up. And as she does this, Osid hits her with a fireball. And she flies into the water. We get this... You know how, like, in movies you get this, like, death scene where it's like a dream, basically, like a dream state where they're like, I'm going to have this interlude and try to, you know, come to terms with the end of my life. Mm-hmm. And so Dory has one of these little interludes where she's sitting in the grove with Toto and they're just kind of like hanging out, like being cute. And she has this reflection of why there's such an issue with, like, okay, why does Osid need the singing arrows to stop dinosaurs? And like, why are the dinosaurs attacking this place? And she figures out that like the dinosaurs are following their migration path, which animals do every year because they're massive omnivore animals and herbivore animals. And so they're like, they have to move every year in order to like maintain their food supply. And so the dinosaurs, like this place is built in the middle of their migration path. And so all Osid has to do to solve his issue is to move his settlement. And then nobody has to fight anyone, and no one has to be loyal to anyone, and everyone can just exist. And so as she comes to this revelation, Saul pulls her out of the water, finds out that we are in the midst of an escape plan. The escape plan is to get Dory and run away. And Saul has, yeah, solid plan. Saul has, of course, talked to a bunch of the singing arrow people and told him about Locke being alive, and has been like singing his praises, which is hilarious. Because, you know, much to Saul's chagrin, he doesn't want to do that, but he has to admit that, like, Locke is an important person. And so the two of them end up getting out, and I think Toto's with them too. They get cornered. You can't go this way, there's guards. You can't go that way, there's guards. The singing arrows are behind them, trying to hold people off so they can get away. What Dory ends up doing, throwback here, Dory ends up taking her boot off and her sock off and shaking her foot at the other Cincato and yelling hoof rot, and the Cincato like start vomiting and running away and like being horrified to the point that she's like, for hoof rot, to the point that she's like, you guys are gonna give me a fucking complex, this is weird. But anyway, they clear out, they're all gone, and then Saul and her end up escaping. So they're on they have Beast with them. They escape into the storm starts, because of course it does. They find Intern is with them as well, and Intern points them towards, because he's got his computers and stuff, points them towards another human enrichment center. And this human enrichment center is a massive chapel in the middle of like nowhere. They find the chapel, they open the doors, they take refuge. The lights are like, there's no lights on right now, it's just very dark and whatever, stormy. Saul and Dory kind of like share this nice moment where it's kind of a casual intimacy kind of thing. And as that happens, the Tamagotchi goes off. Of course, this is like a triggering thing for not like Soul now, where he's like, you like me, sucker. Because every time the Tamagotchi goes off, like it raises their affection level. Oh God, one of my notes here, it just says garlic bread, because Saul lets it slip that there is garlic bread on this planet. They have access to garlic and butter. Oh, it's great. And I'm like, it's such an important information. So as she's talking to Soul, she mentions about being poisoned. Intern freaks the fuck out, like loses his shit, because And he uses the phrase, you're far too expensive to be poisoned. And how is there anything on this planet that can poison you? Because they specifically designed this planet to be safe for humans. Yeah. Dory, of which is immediately like, you put fucking dinosaurs on this planet, bro. Like, not safe. Not safe at all for humans. And then, of course, Saul pipes in and he's like, yeah, but did you check our home planet for anything that's poisonous to humans? And keep this in the back of your mind, too. Because the same is also true. That just because Cincato, like they didn't send anything with the Cincato that could poison them, doesn't mean anything on Earth can't poison the Cincato too. So like this is a key pivotal point that you need to remember. So they have to restrain Intern because he's like flipping out, being like, we need to take you back to the research center ASAP and heal you and make sure we can sort this out. So they have to restrain him. So he's restrained, hanging out in a pew somewhere. So Dory and Saul go around trying to find the lights in this place. And Dory comes to the conclusion that the lights are clappers. So she claps her hands and the lights turn on.
Oh, I clap on that. Okay.
Yes, because, and I quote, apparently they think humans can't be trusted with light switches. And Intern pipes up and he's like, we don't think you can. So they turn the lights on and they see what this chapel is filled with. And so remember, this is an outside perspective of what these sour birds think humans worship. And keep in mind, too, that like the idea of worshiping a god in general is foreign to them. So they're like, what do you mean? What does worship mean? That's strange. So this chapel is filled with depictions of fictional, copyright-free characters locked in a fight with Steamboat Willie.
What?
So there's King Kong, Dracula, and Sherlock Holmes locked into this epic battle with Steamboat Willie.
As in like Mickey.
No. Steamboat Willie, because this is all open source. Because copyright infringement is taken very seriously. It's taken more seriously than human trafficking in space.
Clearly.
And Saul has this moment of like, do you really want to get into it? Because again, he's a lawyer and he's like, ooh, you really don't want to know. Yeah, it's taken way worse. Across intergalactic copyright infringement is such a big thing. And so like anyway. So that's why everything here is open source fighting with Steamboat Willie. It's very funny.
Oh my fuck.
They're all settling in for the night to go to bed. Toto rolls in with his queen, of course, because he's like, hey, is it cool if my queen comes in out of the storm? I swear she'll be okay. And so the saber-toothed tiger curls up on one of the pews because there's a church, like a chapel. And Toto can get like about 5 or 10 feet away from her before she starts hissing and growling at him. So like, this is fine. I'm just going to bask in my queen being here. I'm so pleased right now. And so he's just like smitten. And Saul says like what does he do? He's just like laying on the pew and he like opens his arms up to like get Dory to come like lay with him basically. And like kind of uncomfy on a pew, but still like, you know, being very comforting to her. And my note says Soul is very bar on the ground sweet. And then it sets the Tamagotchi off. So his affection level goes up another point just because he's being kind of nice. Now at this point is very important because the Tamagotchi goes off and immediately there's a silhouette outside of the window. The silhouette is of the pink T-Rex, which is called they call it the Grularok. It starts chirping and scraping at the windows trying to find a way in. And chirping. Dory grabs the Tamagotchi and buries under her butt because she's like, what the hell's going on right now? Why is this? And turns the lights off, whatever. And so they're kind of like quietly not moving, not saying anything, not doing anything, trying to keep this under wraps so that the dinosaur doesn't try to break in. The dinosaur finally goes away. Everything's quiet. They end up going to sleep. In the morning, Intern is freaking out at Soul, being very adamant that Dory has to return to the research facility. We need to get her healed ASAP. Like, she's way too much of an investment to like have anything bad happen to her. But of course, Dory's like, I'm gonna go save Locke. So you guys can either fucking come do that or fuck off. Intern has this moment of breaking where he describes Dory as the meerkats that she was looking after or researching. And so he says something along the lines of like, remember how you don't ask your meerkats for permission to do anything? We're leaving now. And so a bunch of what they call like the mini saucers that he was driving earlier show up out of nowhere and start trying to catch them. This is where you find out that Locke and Dory were sold out to OSID to replicate the pining situation. Because when Saul was away trying to be like was fighting the T-Rex and ended up getting taken away, her affection for Soul went up several points when he was distant and had to be saved.
Oh.
Intern is doing this bullshit thing where he's getting Locke to be in danger too, so that Dory can pine after him and get his affection level up. Because
all the sour birds care about is when they reach their like top level of affection, and then they'll mate basically for life. And so that's his prerogative. And again, he's like, yeah, you're just research subjects. Like, we're just manipulating this and this is what we're doing. And very matter of fact about it. And so this whole thing has been a betrayal from the start. Like, intern is like, I've been just gathering this crazy research data from you guys, and it's like invaluable information. And so I've just been traveling with you in order to get this information. But it's time to stop this charade because you are being compromised by being poisoned. So we need to take you back to the research facility. Like, the gig is up basically. And of course she's like, yeah, but we have to go save Locke. And he's like, yeah, but you have a spare mate, so it doesn't matter to us.
You have a spare mate.
Yeah, right? Because she has two. So I'm like, this is ideal, right? Like, because if one dies, you can just go with the other one.
Because humans are simple.
Well, they're like the meerkats, right? Like, that's the joke. That's the overarching kind of vibe here, is that she is in a research project that she was researching, more or less, of this like factions fighting against each other and breeding in order to be strong. And it's just a whole thing. So the little ships show up. One of them kind of throws a net at Saul. Dory ends up trying to like help him escape and stuff. And then Toto, of course, joins the fray. And Toto is like just loving all of this because his notion is that like, I need to provide my queen with breakfast and these sour birds will be perfect. And so he's taking them all out and pulling the birds and like basically feeds his queen with it. They end up getting away. We have another high-speed chase on the back of Beast. We also get Saul has a genius plan right now. He starts like getting frisky with Dory and she's like, now is not the fucking time. What are you doing? And he ends up like being super adorable with her and like leans in and just like tells her that he loves her. And immediately it sets the Tamagotchi off. And when it sets the Tamagotchi off, the T-Rex bursts out of the side of the woods and ends up like eating a bunch of these saucers to help them get away. And when Dory looks back, there's a bunch of baby T-Rexes that are like blue, I think, that are following this T-Rex around. And the T-Rex is pulling the sour birds out of the flying saucers to feed to her babies. So this is what has been going on when she's chasing them from the start, is that she wanted the sour birds to feed to her kids because that's all they eat. Adorable. They're in the Fuchsia Grove already. The Fuchsia Grove, of course, is massive, but they're like, Locke is here somewhere. We have to find him. And Saul makes the offhand comment about like, hey, Beast, can I just ask you to go find Locke? And Beast like calls out to find Blossom because they have like a call for each other. And so they end up finding Locke. And as they find him I think it's called the Glyph Stone. It's like a massive monument in the middle of this place. They come across the scene where the singing arrows have gathered in ceremony, basically, as Locke puts his armor back on. Dory freaks out and she's like, no, don't put that back on, like before he's about to put his helmet on. As she gets to him, he already has his breastplates on. She starts trying to cut it off and he's like, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? Like, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're safe. I got this letter that had your blood on it. Like, I was so freaked out. He starts like turning red and immediately starts like getting puffy. And his eyes are like watering and his throat starts closing. And she's like, holy shit. Like, this is a fast acting poison. We need to help you right now. But she realizes, and somebody mentions something about, I think it's Locke. He mentions that like, I should have known that he was going to poison me because of the trees that are nearby. And she looks around. She's like, what does that mean? And one of the other people there points at one of the trees that has apples growing on it. And then she realizes, she's like, apples aren't poisonous. Holy shit, you're allergic to apples. And so he's going into anaphylactic shock, which typically with these dudes here would kill them because they're not used to, like, they don't know what is going on right now. They're not alert. They don't have apples on their home planet. And so they're figuring like, oh, it's just poison. He's poisoned. And Dory figures out that she's like, no, this is just anaphylactic shock. We can fix this. And so she sends some of the warriors off to find reeds, and they bring back the reeds. And she crams them down his like nasal passage to get like, you know, she does it properly because she's taken first aid down his nasal passage in order to establish his airway. And so now he just needs to like chill out until the swelling comes down and he can still breathe and everything's going to be great. So you get this like heartfelt reunion after he kind of like, he chills out for like half an hour, 45 minutes. And then like the swelling goes down. He's still kind of weak and whatever, but like he's better. I should say too, this is still the morning. So Osid said he was going to attack like in the evening. So we've got a bit of time to kind of reestablish what's going on here. So there's a heartfelt reunion with the singing arrows who were kind of like mad but happy that Locke's alive because they do genuinely look up to him as a general. And they're mad that he just left and didn't really give them a choice, but they're happy that like he's alive. And they are like hella fucking dedicated to this guy. It's wild. And Locke and Dory and Sol kind of like share this moment where they're all back together finally and everyone's safe. And then Sol, of course, like pulls out the Tamagotchi and shows it to Locke. And he's like, oh, look, I won. And Sol's at 10 affection level and Locke is at 9. Locke, of course, takes the Tamagotchi and breaks it at that point because he's like, fuck this shit. What is going, like, I'm done with this crap. And then I think this is where, oh yeah, Dory tells him about the birth control implant because she's like, I recognize now that like this is a breeding program. I just want you guys to know that like I can't get pregnant. And they're all like, this is ideal. This is exactly what we want. There's too much shit going on now. We don't want to have kids, blah, blah, blah. To the point that Locke like kisses her shoulder where the implant is and says, thank you for your service.
Oh my fuck.
And I'm like, this is amazing. I love that turnaround. So obviously later in the evening, Osid rolls up. There's a fight that ensues. He's going on about how like we need one king to unite Lysinkato in order to survive the rumbling. There's a big fight. He does bring Blair with him and she's like tied up or chained to a something. And so Dory ends up freeing her in the middle of all this kerfuffle because no one, and like I said earlier, Dory has figured out how to stop this about like, just move your camp and this is all gone away. She's trying to like get this through to them, but they just won't hear it. Everyone's fighting. She releases Blair. Blair grabs the gun, of course, and goes to shoot Osid, who's grappling with Locke. And Dory's like, no, you're going to shoot Locke or whatever, and intervenes. And she gets grazed by the bullet, like on the side of her face. And of course, everyone freezes because they're like, oh my God, you can't hurt a woman. Like, you cannot do that here. Like, it's just, this is detrimental. Whatever we're doing, we're stopping right now. Please stop. And so Blair, of course, is like eternally like, I am so fucking sorry. Like, I did not mean for that, blah, blah, blah. And so Dory takes this moment to freak the fuck out and make everybody listen to her because she's like, I almost got shot. We're going to talk about the problem now and the solution. And she like tears into Osid about like, this is just the migratory patterns of animals. If you move your camp, you won't have this problem. If you just like, the entire empire will be saved if you do this. Of course, he's like, why would I listen to you? And she's like, I'm literally a wildlife biologist. This is my job. Go hire some people to do some research, figure it out, and you will see that you just need to move your fucking camp and it'll be fine.
I love that the person in your first book was a marine biologist and the person in this one is a wildlife biologist. I'm seeing a pattern.
I mean, I did not pick that for that reason, and these are very different vibes of books. Holy shit. Intern rolls up with his like limping in here and he's got Toto with him. Like, he's collected the crew. So finally Dory's starting to like feel the poison. Like, she's getting kind of woozy and she's coughing up blood and like it's progressing. And so when Intern's like, we're getting the fuck out of here, she's like, yeah, cool, that's fine. At the same time, Intern pulls out a Tamagotchi that's a different color and pattern, and it's for Blair and Osid because they have like tracking chips that were in the syringes or whatever, or in the darts that were put into them, and so they can track what's going on chemically. Yeah. And so Blair and Osid's like numbers are like negative. And he's like, this will just not do. You two, you're coming with me for couples counseling right now.
Oh my God.
And so they all get scooped up and they go back to the research facility. So Dory's healed. She has this like kind of heart to heart with Toto at one point because I think it's his queen, the saber-toothed tiger, who doesn't have a name yet, has pointed out how good he is at protecting his pride, as they call it. And so he's like, I'm here because my queen said I was good at this. And so he's like just preening and he's just here protecting her. And so they have this heart to heart about maybe Dory doesn't want to leave because her life was basically forfeit. And she can make a lot of difference here researching these new animals and this new fauna and flora and, continuing her job basically, but in a new planet, and how she's like she's definitely fallen for Locke and Sol at this point. So she's kind of resolved herself to stay. And Toto Toto has the very pragmatic view of like, look at all the things you've accomplished since you're here. Like, you're capable of so much. And he uses the phrase, if even one of my daughters turned out to be like you, I would be a very proud father indeed. And she just like has a teary moment about that. So the doctor comes in and he clears her that she's safe and everything and asks her why hasn't she fallen pregnant yet. It says in the file from the report that they've copulated many times and she hasn't been pregnant. Keep in mind, this has been like 4 days since she landed, maybe, like not a long time, but that's fine. And Sol rolls in and interrupts this
before, like, because Toto knows about the implant thing, but doesn't know about the chocolate situation. Like, doesn't know to fake it, but Sol interrupts him immediately and is like, yeah, of course she's not pregnant yet because you guys haven't provided any chocolate or coffee. So obviously we can't, like, no babies can happen until this is a thing. And so they're still hiding the birth control thing because otherwise they'd probably take it out, right? And the doctor checks their notes from the report and be like, oh, yes, I see that's in the report. We'll work on those things immediately. So... like, I fucking love this. It's great. So Locke interrupts and Sol, of course, brags about like, yeah, I got there first, whatever. And Locke's like, you know what? You might have gotten there first in the affection meter, but I'm going to make sure that she takes vengeance. And he like shoves Locke in a closet and locks the door.
Oh
and
my
then
God.
and then takes Dory down to the head office. So
Of course.
So they go through into this office and they confront this guy named Vexel Kryn, who's the head of the research facility. And she immediately just like, you know why I'm here, right? And he's like, gulp, no, why are you here? And she punches him square in the fucking face.
Oh my
and like almost kills him, like to the point that she's like, oh my God, did I kill him? And everyone's just like, no, you didn't kill him. Like, it's fine, whatever. But if you want to, even intern rolls in and he's like, yeah, but I mean, I won't say no if you do. I didn't see anything. I'm like, this is great.
Oh my God.
So in the distance, though, we have to take note that there's like, what do they call it? The counseling spire or the couple spire or something in the distance. Like, it's part of the compound. And you can see this, like a window smashes out and some smoke rolls out of the window. And then there's like a weird tentacled like octopus thing that's like crawling up the side of the building, like it had fallen out of the window. And you see Blair like leaning over, shooting it with her gun because that's like an intern quips up like, oh yeah, I guess counseling's not going so well.
Oh my God.
So then you have that little vignette of Blair and Osid. It's quite good. And then of course, like they have some sexy times. Like everyone clears out of the office, they do sexy times because of course they do, and it's hot as fuck. Then so that's like the end of the main story, and we do get this, you know, there's this complex is like very expensive and incredibly like wasted so much money on it. Like it's such a typical like rich research facility that just failed so hard on the actual research. It's very good. But then the epilogue. So the epilogue's about Intern.
Oh God.
And Intern is providing his final field report to their new director called Dr. Camu Narali. She tells him about how like, yeah, the cocoa plants have been put in place. They should be sprouting soon so we can start making chocolate. And we're currently digging the coffee river so that we'll have access to fresh coffee. And the intern...
What?
Yes, listen, that's just how it be. They're building a coffee river. And then Intern gets a promotion because of all the good work he's done. And the last line of the book is that Intern gets a promotion to field agent, and his code name is Cupid.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Okay, well that's where we end the book. And I have something to read for you. So this is that like second time they had a big to-do. So they were romping through the forest. Dory was getting kind of hot and heavy, and Locke picked up on it. And so they stopped and pulled over basically on the side. Locke calls Sol over and basically like offers up Dory to him in a way. And he's like, okay, well, fuck that. I'm just going for it. This is where Locke gets really bossy and some other stuff happens. And anyway, I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
Sol leaned over and settled a hand possessively on my neck. Molten eyes glinted as he searched my face. Then his hand slid downward along with his gaze, feathering light touches against my skin that burned a plea from my lips. Please. He grinned. What a pretty sound. Pride long gone, I almost say it again. But the world fell silent when he kissed me. An unsure press of the lips at first, that he might have second-guessed himself. The indecision was brief, and then he nipped at my lower lip, licked the sting away, and then marauded his way deeper, sliding his tongue against mine. A sense of urgency drove my hands into his hair, pulling him as close as I could to satiate the pounding of my heart. Sliding his hand under my shirt, he cupped my breasts. When he broke the kiss to rip the shirt with his teeth, my gasp was both indignant and appallingly aroused. I'll get you another one, he said against my nipple. Then he bit it. He's right. Fuck the shirt. Kneeling between my legs, Sol ran his hands along my thighs before kissing the sensitive skin he found between them. He looked up at me, letting the warmth of his breath run over my sex. Anticipation nearly killed me. My breathing sped up as I watched him. Just before I felt the tip of his tongue, Locke's tail cracked him on the side of his face. Contempt laced his question. Did I say you could taste that before me? My mouth hung open. I was far too stunned to speak. Furthering my dismay, Saul merely laughed and said, "Greedy prick." Then he stood, sliding his hand up my thighs and dug his thumb into my pussy, earning a gasp. He withdrew and rubbed circles around my clit before thrusting his fingers in. Not like she needs it either way. Look at you dripping all over my hooves. His gaze... my hooves! My hooves!
He has regular fingers though, right?
Oh, yeah. Everything
Okay.
else is pretty normal. He's got hooves and a tail and
Horns.
horns. His gaze raked over my body as his free hand closed around my throat. Gods, what a mess you make. I close my eyes, getting lost in the feeling. "Look at me," he whispers, and gives me a sharp slap between my legs. I cried out and squirmed in surprise, and the throbbing need pulsing through my body. My heart was pounding. My body was shaking. So much I couldn't stand it. I managed a withering glare. His smile was crooked. I bet his heart was too. Then he shoved my legs apart and buried his cock deep inside me, like he'd die if he didn't. I cried out his name, body jerking like it couldn't get enough. When he started to pound into me, my nails clawed at his back. Yes, keep crying for me. I love that. Panting, I held his face as he fucked me unforgivingly rough. His throaty grunts mingled with the slap of his hips on mine, and it was a fucking music to my ears. Wetness soaked my inner thighs and dropped to the grass below. Oh gods, yes, that feels so good. He fucked me until my head was spinning. I felt high, drunk on the fever that kept me begging for more. Low moans delved into desperate mewlings as my orgasm came closer. "Is this what you wanted?" he asked Locke. His chest rumbled at my back as he replied, "Close." I felt the brush of Locke's tail before it slid down Soul's back. A gasp fell from his lips before he glared at Locke. His thrust halted. Locke scolded. "I told you to fuck her. Don't you dare stop." Soul's body tightened before his eyes fluttered close on a heavy breath. Locke's tail pushed further into him before starting a slow, gentle rhythm. The cock inside me twitched. With shuddering gasp, Soul grabbed my hips and thrust into me. "Good boy," Locke crooned, and fisted his hand in Soul's hair and kissed him. When they broke apart, Locke's voice was a graveled murmur. "Put your tail on her clit and suck." Soul's obedience ripped a scream from me. Searing pleasure bordered on madness when Locke grabbed his tail and ground it further in. "Tell us who this belongs to, Stardust." I whimpered. Words were impossible. Locke pinched his fingers around the tail, sucking at my clit, and whispers escalated to screams as my orgasm hit me like a freight train. Soul gripped my throat with one hand, and he bared his fangs on a groan as he thrust deep. "Say it. Sing for me, and I'll let you come again on my knot." I felt the barest prick of his nails on my pulse. My core contracted around him, and I squirmed, unable to hold still, and in the face of the insistent orgasm that just wouldn't end. "Yes." "Yes, what?" Locke asked. "Yes, it's yours. I swear it's yours. Please just don't stop." The word sounded desperate, but the please shiver Soul gave was worth it. "That's my girl." Locke put a hand on Soul's shoulder, halting his movements. He grabbed a blanket off Blossom's saddle and threw it on the grass before setting me down, quickly positioning Saul in front of me before he took his place behind him. Wasting no time, Saul kissed me senseless and buried himself back inside me. I was panting, but it felt like I couldn't breathe. "That's it. Hold it in her. Hold yourself inside her while I push into you." Tremors rocked through Saul at the thrust of Locke's hips. Eyes closed, lips parted. He was the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen. This was so good. Too good. Be it the serum or some cosmic twist of fate, the need to get lost in them was euphoric. Saul ground into me, his tail working my swollen clit. He leaned down and nipped my neck, my blood throbbing in the veins just underneath. His knee pushed against my thigh, spreading me further as he sank to the hilt inside me. The base of his cock pulsed, putting more pressure against my sweet spot. Oh fuck, yes. I jerked up against him, begging for the knot he promised. Locke reached down and cradled the back of my head. I braced myself on my elbows to meet him, and the kiss was deep, dominant, binding. If your beauty was kept from me much longer, I'm afraid I would have hunted you down. The memory of the words pulled at my mind like the water that dragged me towards the Masasar after it opened its mouth. "From this moment on, where you walk, I follow." I swam as fast as I could, but I still felt its fangs at my heels. You're mine, after all. Escape was impossible without Saul's outside interference. You think he'll save you? Oh gods. My body thrummed as Soul worked his knot past my slit. His hands were rough, his breathing rougher. The orgasm was as blinding as the revelation. Locke had staked his claim. Help wasn't coming. He'd made sure of that.
Dun dun dun.
Right, so that was Soul fucking Dory on Locke's orders, and then Locke fucking Soul in the butt.
Oh, that did happen. Okay, I
That
was
did
getting
happen.
confused by the course of events.
It was a little subtle, honestly, and I'm like, I feel like you could have made that overt, like more overt.
Yeah, that's what I was
Like, and that was the first time they'd done it too, so I wasn't like, oh, this is familiar. Like, it wasn't. I was like, hey, he just put his tail in his butt. And then he just put his dick in his butt. And I'm like, excuse me? What's going on right now?
I need more of this.
Here's the thing, is that Kimberley Lemming did a beautiful job making me need to read the next book.
Is there another book?
Well, there's gonna be with Blair and Osid. There
Oh,
has to
right.
be. Like, there's got to be like another one. And I'm like, I need more of whatever that is too.
Fair.
Because again, the Sincato have been here for 10 years without any women. And I'm like, I need to know what's going on here. This is detrimental.
Well, clearly you know something of what's going on because they just did that thing.
They
So.
did. And there was no like, this was not weird.
Yeah.
It was claiming is what it was. It was like Locke claiming soul, basically. And I'm like, excuse me, what's going on right now?
Here for it.
Adorable. Here for it. Anyway, so that's I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in a Rom-Com by Kimberley Lemming. How would you like to rate this book? I think we should rate it on T-Rex babies.
Not yicks.
Nah, yicks are like, they're fine. They're fluffy stegosauruses. Their wool makes like silky clothing and stuff, but I'm like, I'm more intrigued about what's gonna happen with these 5 baby T-Rexes who eat sour birds only.
Like Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the connection here. So if Sour Patch Kids could fly and manipulate entire species of humans and Sincato, I'm gonna give this a 4.5 because like one dinosaur came out wonky. A 4.5 because
One has gimpy arms.
this is one of those books that like I will talk about this book forever. It's wild in just like some of the shit that happens and how crazy it is. And like I just went on for a solid hour and a half almost talking about this book because like it just so much stuff happens in 300 pages. It's intense. It's a lot of stuff.
I was going to ask you how long this book was because it seemed like it was long.
Right? But I just like, I didn't want to, like none of that stuff. I felt like I couldn't leave anything out in the narrative because all of it's very important. Like it all works together. And especially because like this is a ton of world building, right? Like we're going to be, when we come back to the second book, I assume there's a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be explained. So because of that and learning all these characters and they're like very kind of thick backstories, you need to, I don't know, like you need to explain a lot of stuff. And I didn't want to like everything I said was important, which is rare, but I think everything I said was important. So,
Which is rare,
which is
but-
hella rare because generally I talk a lot of shit. I think as for the narrative, I think it was important to cover all of that stuff. So yes, it was long, but I think it did a thorough job of it. So the reason I'm only giving it a 4.5 and not a 5 is because I had to explain every piece of that book. Like it was a lot, like a shit ton. And I honestly, coming into a Kimberley Lemming book, I knew what I was expecting. Like I had my expectations set in a certain place. And I don't know that this book is better than the previous book she's written. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like there was something about like the demon series, like the Mean Mishaps books that like there was something very charming about them that I didn't get in this book. And I don't know what it, like, cause they are incredibly similar.
Yeah.
Just a different setting really. But
Sci-fi versus romance?
I mean, it's sci-fi versus fantasy, I guess.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry.
I'm not sure. It just didn't stick with me the same way those other books did for some reason. And there was kind of too much shit going on, I think. And when I looked up like the Goodreads reviews even, I think a lot of people felt similarly. So I was kind of validating that. I'm like, oh, good. Like this isn't her best work, but like fucking read this book. Holy shit. Like it's a wild ride. So that's, 4.5 out of 5, I think.
Okay.
Do you have an opinion on the matter after that fever dream we just went through?
I don't know. I wish that the fact that he did him in the butt was more clear. That would have been...
I agree.
I appreciate what she tried to do. I appreciate what she tried to do in terms of like the irony of a lot of it. And I think that's kind of her thing. Like that's her vibe anyway, is just like leaning into the irony of and like the satire of and the mocking. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of her jam.
Yeah, I mean the Mean Mishaps series was very on the nose about racism.
Oh, 100%.
And hilariously, I remember the takeaway from The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon was like a lot of the people in the major cities were like, oh yeah, we don't do racism. We just don't do that. And that was it. And it's like, we just need to solve it. And it's just like, oh, this is very matter of fact. And I wish the world worked like that. Definitely the same vibes here, I would say.
Without having read it, I'd say like a 3.5, I guess.
That's reasonable, I think. And I would like to, because it is on your TBR, yeah?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so after you do read it, I would love to recap, like just privately maybe, about how you feel about it. Because
Privately.
Well, we'll talk about it in private, Ashton. Just because I'm very curious what your takeaway, like how you feel about it afterwards. Because I definitely like went into this with an expectation that I don't think was met per se. Even though, and I will say this is a wild fucking ride of a book. I'm never gonna forget it as long as I live.
I'm never gonna forget it.
It's such a memorable book. Do with that information what you will. But I do highly recommend it.
Before we started recording, we were discussing how your taste in books has been skewed immensely over the course of the last little while.
Yes, my expectations are certainly, because we were talking specifically about Pumpkin Spice Cafe.
Yes, sorry. I started stretching and I lacked the context.
And I was saying how like everyone hyped that book and that series. I was like, all right, let's read this book. And it's a cute little wholesome rom-com. It's adorable. But like, it does not meet my expectations for a good romance book at all. I'm always like, I need to kind of curb my opinion on some stuff, I think, because my expectations are in a certain place. And I don't know that kind of popular romance novels hit that anymore. And when I say popular, I'm just like, what's trending on Book Talk, basically. Maybe I'm just in a weird place. Could be a thing. But that being said, the next time we are back,
we are reading a typical standard rom-com.
Here's the thing, though, is that I've read the first of this series. So, like, I have some context for this. So the next time we're back, Ash is bringing us Daydream by Hannah Grace.
Yeah, I am.
And this is the third book in that series. The first one is Icebreaker, if you recall. So I've read that book. So I'm very curious to see these other characters and like where their story goes. So
Henry's my favorite.
Amazing. So and this book is about Henry, yeah?
Yeah, he's my favorite.
Excellent.
He was my favorite in the first one. He was my favorite in the second one, and he's my favorite in the third one. And like, I'm just, it's just, there's so many things about that book I liked. So many things. Like
Amazing.
You'll understand when I explain it to you.
So that book is available on like Kindle if you want to get it there. It's on ebook. Obviously, you can get an audiobook of it. So it's available in all the places. I actually have Icebreaker. I think I picked up in person. So like that's very available at the bookstores. It was very popular for a while. Yeah, and that's by Hannah Grace. So give that a read if you want to follow along, and we will talk about that next time we are back. And thanks for sticking in there, Ash, with pink dinosaurs and sour birds and lions.
Now I want Sour Patch Kids.
Let's go eat some Sour Patch Kids. Okay, guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram at Queens of Spice, or you can send us an email at queensofspice@gmail.com.